Well, hello, everyone. My name is John Brenneman. I am the president here at MOA Vacations, and we are joined today by our good friend, Tim Birch with Atlas Ocean Voyages. We have a lot of information to cover today, so we're going to get right to it. Um, Before we get started, I want everybody to know we are recording this webinar, so we will send everyone an email that will have a link to this webinar in case you want to revisit it. We did start right at the top of the hour. So if Tim or I say something that you want to revisit, just take a look at your, I was going to say watch, phone, clock on the wall, whatever it is. And if we're, say, 35 minutes into the presentation, if you don't want to watch the entire webinar, then you can just fast forward right to that section of the webinar. So the way we're going to do this today is I'm going to talk a little bit about MOA Vacations. I'm also going to share some of my personal experiences. I did sail on Atlas in November and just absolutely loved it. So I want to kind of share some of the things that I learned when I was on board the ship. I am going to preview a couple of things that we have that are going to be announced hopefully by Monday. So some things that we're kind of putting together for everyone that relate both to the Greek Isles, which is what we're going to focus on today. When Tim and I kind of did a couple of practice runs on this, we were well over an hour trying to go through in the detail they demand for both of these sailings. So today we're going to focus on the Greek Isles. We do have another webinar that we're going to do on March 13th, and that one will solely be focused on that 2026 Dublin to Porto cruise. But I am going to talk a little bit about that. We do have the website if you want to go to it. But anyway, and then so I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Tim's going to start out and talk about Atlas. They are a relatively new cruise line, so a lot of you may not be familiar with them. So he's going to talk about Atlas and the great product that they have out there. And then we're going to turn our attention to the Greek Isles cruise, August 9th through the 16th. We'll kind of go through that. And then we always end with a Q&A. So if you have any questions, be sure you stick around or you come back for the end, because Tim and I will be here to answer any questions that you might have. So without any further ado, for those of you who may not be fully familiar with who we are and kind of what makes MOA Vacations special, I always like to start out talking briefly about what kind of makes us different from other travel agencies. And the first we always talk about is our superior level of service. We like to provide what we call a concierge level of service. So we are here to help with whatever assistance you need in planning your vacation. We are and we continue to be the only travel agency in the United States that provides travel on a satisfaction guaranteed basis. And what that means is simply what it says. If you have a question or a concern or a problem, either before or during your cruise, you reach out to us and we will get that resolved for you. Industry standard is about 6 to 8 weeks. I know Atlas does much better than that, but we try to get back to you within 48 hours. So if you have a problem or a concern, I reach out to Tim. Tim and I have been working together longer than either one of us care to admit, but it is in the decades, not years, that we've worked together. We worked with Tim prior to him coming on board with Atlas. Atlas, as I mentioned, is a relatively new product in the cruise marketplace. And so we take advantage of that to get the problem resolved to your satisfaction in a very timely manner. So that's why we value partners like Tim so much, these preferred vendors that we work with, because they do work with us to get those problems resolved quickly. We do guarantee the lowest price. In addition to that, we do have a free amenity program. We do have an amenity program with Atlas Cruises. So obviously we kind of focus on the signature groups, and I'm going to talk about the signature groups more in just a second, which we have one in 2025, one in 2026. We've already started talking to MOA about what signature groups we want to offer in 2027. We have every intention of offering another Atlas yacht voyage. If you have any suggestions, feel free to drop me an email and say, here's where I think you should go in 2027. We will probably go with the same format we have for this year. So this year in May, we have a land tour. We have a couple of buses that are exclusively for MOA members to Australia and New Zealand. In August, obviously, we have Greek Isles with Atlas, so it's your opportunity to sail on a yacht. And it's important on the yacht, and I'll get to that in a second, for a number of reasons. And then we have a river cruise. So in 2027, we're looking at doing pretty much the same thing we're doing this year. We'll have a land tour. We will have a yacht cruise or an ocean cruise on Atlas, and then we'll do a river cruise as well. And we are in the process of putting those together right now. Atlas does participate in our free amenity program. So if you don't go on one of the signature groups, you can pick any Atlas voyage you want, any itinerary, any ship, any departure. And as a MOA member, in recognition of your past and your continued service, you will receive $100 per person onboard credit. So kind of better than the lowest price. We provide value beyond that guaranteed lowest price through these MOA exclusive amenities. So Tim, thank you, and thank everybody at Atlas. We always appreciate it when our partners step up and offer some exclusive amenity to MOA members. And I want to talk real quick, when we talk about savings and those types of things, the travel industry is notorious for, you see all these promotions where like 50% off and all these other type of things, but they're not real true savings in the fact that if you call the cruise line and they give you a price of $5,000, and you call MOA Vacations and the price is $5,000, and you call another travel agency, the price is $5,000, even though they promote it as 50% off, it's not really a savings if everybody is offering the same price. So when we talk about savings, we're talking about true savings that if you contact another if you contact Atlas directly or another travel agency, they're not going to have that. So when we talk about the MOA exclusive amenities, if you book a cruise direct with Atlas, the price may be the same of ours. We do have a number of sailings where we have discounts below what Atlas charges, but that exclusive amenity is exclusively for MOA members. So if you book with Atlas, you're not going to get that $200 amenity. So we really appreciate these cruise lines and these tour companies stepping up and saying, we're going to give something more to MOA members, which we don't give to the general public. And then the last little box on this slide is group opportunities. We do have hundreds of groups that we have blocked. About half the MOA members that call us up actually ask if there's a group departure. So for example, they'll call up and say, I'm looking to go to Alaska in July this year. Do you have any groups going? They may be specific and say, I'm looking at going on Regent or Princess or Holland, whoever that is. But that's not always the case. So we do have a lot of group space that we're holding. And then, of course, we have the signature groups. And the signature groups, I always kind of reference as they're kind of like groups, but on steroids, because they have what we offer in a standard group, but a little bit more than that. So let's talk about the signature groups. Tim, I think we have a slide kind of on the signature groups. So here's kind of the things that are offered in a signature group, which isn't offered on all the other groups we offer. So the first thing is MOA leadership and staff will be on board. This is to ensure that everything goes and smoothly. Basically, we say it's to ensure a stress-free vacation. Someone from MOA Vacations will also be on the cruise. So let's look at Greek Isles. On Greek Isles, we know right now that I will be going for MOA Vacations. So it's your opportunity to cruise with me. And I am there for one reason, and that's to make sure you have as much fun as possible. Some of you have been on a signature group I've escorted before, and literally I am there. You'll see me morning, noon, and night. I am there. Any questions, concerns, problems you have, anything that you want, I'm there just for that reason alone. We try to make them as all-inclusive as possible. Tim will kind of go through what's included. When we talk about exclusive onboard events and excursions, Tim's going to talk a little bit about a shore excursion that we have on this cruise that is included, that everyone's invited to. But one of the things, and this is something we just recently finalized, and I mentioned we have a number of things we're working on. is some of you may be familiar with Live Local Today. That is the Rubino brothers, Michael and Guy. One of them's a sommelier, the other one's a renowned chef, used to have his own cooking show on TV or whatever. We are bringing them on, or Atlas and us are bringing them on this cruise, so they will do cooking demonstrations, Q&As, and they will be joining us for the entirety of this cruise as just another kind of added amenity that we have on this cruise. One thing I want to mention, friends and family are always invited. I know this is on the signature group. People sometimes ask when we talk about these signature groups being exclusives. And by exclusive, we mean when we talk about this Greek Isles cruise, we are holding the entire ship. So there are 92 staterooms. I think we've sold 83 of them or 84 of them. So we don't have a lot left, but they are also sold to MOA members or MOA members guests. So you're invited. If you decide to go on this trip, you can bring family along, you can bring friends along. They don't have to be MOA members. They don't have to be military. If you're going as a MOA member, you can bring as many people as you want. This is actually true of any groups we do, or even if you just call up and say, hey, I would like to go, let's say Atlas, you'd like to do Antarctica. And so you want to do Atlas, Antarctica. If you want to bring friends and family along, they get the guaranteed lowest price and they will receive the MOA exclusive amenity, because the MOA exclusive amenity is for MOA members and anyone traveling with them. This is different than like military discount. Military discounts are almost always exclusively for people who serve. And so some of the sailings that Atlas do have a military rate. So if you were to bring a neighbor along who didn't serve, they would get the MOA exclusive amenity, that $100 per person onboard credit. But if you got a military rate, people traveling with you would only get the military rate if they serve. I think that's pretty straightforward, but we always just want to make sure that is clear. And then they are rare opportunities, as I mentioned. We're only doing 3 in 2025. We only have 2 in 2026, and then we're looking at doing 3 again in 2027. So if you're looking to go on this, and I would highly recommend, if you've not been on a signature group in the past, that you look at joining us on one of these signature groups. They are literally the most popular thing that we do. And it's not just the camaraderie of traveling with your fellow MOA members, it's the fact that everybody on board is a MOA member or a MOA member guest. And that adds a couple of things. First off, I was just down in Florida for the Florida State Convention. And when I talked there, I mentioned the fact that, you know, when you go to a dinner, you go to a cocktail party at an event like that, even if you are next to someone you don't know, the conversation just comes naturally because you know that they have this similar background to you. So you have the camaraderie, but the other thing that we discovered, which kind of we weren't, I guess, I shouldn't say we weren't expecting, but became very evident, is the increased level of respect and consideration that people on these signature groups have for each other. And I think a lot of that is because, you know, you kind of, the term I always use on these signature groups is everybody on board is just a friend, some of whom you haven't met yet. And we've all probably been on a cruise or a tour before where there's the annoying people that nobody knows. We don't have that because everyone knows that everyone is MOA members. So it is a much more fun, intimate experience. We have people who went on the first signature group we did in 2019 who continue to travel together. Even if it's not a signature group. So a lot of people are looking for friends to travel with, particularly solo travelers. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But not only does Atlas offer a single rate on both this cruise and the 2026, but basically on all of their cruises, they have a single rate. But we do roommate share. And once again, in 2019, we had, you know, there's 50,000 plus surviving spouses in MOA. So we had a situation where I think there was like 8 or 10 solo traveling females that we put in cabins together. And if you're a solo traveler, it's not a one-time issue. Every time you travel as a solo traveler, there's that added expense. So we have people that in 2019 cruised together Paris and Normandy and have continued to travel together on other signature groups or just on trips that they want to do going forward. So if you are a solo traveler and you are interested in possibly doing that single share, it's a real simple program. You just let the cruise consultant you talk to when you're booking this know that you'd be interested in sharing a room. And then as another person of the same sex says that they also would like to do the same, we just put you in contact with each other. You can talk on the phone, you can text, you can email, whatever you want to do. And then the two of you decide whether or not whether or not you thought you'd be a good match to travel together. So I'm pretty sure this is the last of my slides, is it not, Tim? Yeah. Okay. So before I turn it over to Tim, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Atlas, kind of as a teaser when he goes into this, because I mentioned that I was on Atlas in November, and I got to tell you, I absolutely loved it. First off, the Atlas yachts at 92 staterooms, 184 guests, are probably the largest we will ever do for a signature group. The thing is if you get much larger than 200 people, you really kind of get off the ship or the trip and feel like you didn't have an opportunity to interact with everybody. So I think 200 and below is a great size. To give you an example, when we do consumer events, for example, San Antonio, where there's almost 1,000 members in that chapter, if we were to do a cruise show, we would do multiple times because we didn't want 400 people to show up for one show. It just becomes an unwieldy group. So anyway, I think it's the perfect size for what we're doing with signature groups. For those of you who've been on a river cruise ship before, I like an Atlas more to a river cruise than an ocean cruise, primarily because of the size. When you're on this ship, there's only 3 decks of cabins. So no matter what cabin you select, you're always a quick walking distance away from wherever you want to go. I think there are elevators on the ship, but I'm going to tell you, most people didn't use them unless they had, a mobility issue, because you're always like just one deck up or down. It's an easy ship to get around. Now, to me, the big plus over a river cruise ship is river cruise ships sizes are determined by the locks they go through. That's why on Douro River, most of the ships have around 50 staterooms, and then you go to the Seine and it may be 65, and then you go to like the Rhine or the Danube, and then you have the ships that might have 75 cabins, because the ships can't be any bigger than the locks they go through. The great thing about Atlas is, we'll just take an example. When we talk about the Danube, a ship may have 75 cabins. There's 92 staterooms on the Atlas yachts. So it's not much bigger cabin wise or people wise from a river cruise, but the ship is twice the size. And what does that mean? Well, that means, it has a full spa. It has multiple dining venues. It has not one lounge, but 2 lounges that you can go to. It has a theater, so they actually do, performances there. So it's much roomier. The staterooms are larger, top to bottom, than a river cruise. So if you've done ocean cruising, I know a lot of people love it. We sell a lot of it. Some people don't like the size of those ships. I think if you go on this, you're absolutely going to love it. So Tim, I appreciate you giving me just a chance to kind of tease people with Atlas, but I just loved it so much. As I said, we're doing them in 25. We're going to do them in 2026. We're already looking to do it in 2027. So like we use Uniworld for river cruises, we're looking at this being a long-term relationship where we're going to offer an Atlas signature group every year. If you go, you're absolutely going to love it. One last thing. We're hoping to have this information put together soon. We do have the shore excursions now for 2025. We're going to get those posted to the website. We do have the transfers put together, and we have 1 and 2 night pre's in Athens for the people that want to go in early. We do recommend it. All of that information we need to put together. We've received it from Atlas, and our web team just needs to update the website. So hopefully next week, early next week, we're going to send everybody an email and say, hey, the website's been uploaded and you can see all this information. The one other thing that we're going to offer is the sailing prior to ours. So ours is a 7-night Greek Isles cruise from August 9th through the 16th. There is a 12-night Barcelona to Athens cruise that we have held space on, so we can offer that as a back-to-back. So the concept would be the cost of flying over to Europe and the time of flying over it. For most members, they look to extend that trip. You know, if you're going to go to the expense and the uncomfortableness, for a lack of a better term, of flying 7, 8, 9 hours wherever it is you're flying from to get to Europe, why not stay another week or so? So we'll have that put together as well to offer as another back-to-back opportunity for you. So all of that will be updated to the website and be sent out to everyone next week. So we're excited about having all that put together. So Tim, I'm going to talk a little bit when you get done with Greek Isles about what we're putting together for the 2026 trip, because we have a lot of stuff for that. But let's not confuse things now. I'm going to turn it over to you. You can talk to us about Atlas, and you can talk to us about this itinerary. And then when you get done, I'm going to kind of share a few teasers about what we got coming in 2026, and then we'll do the Q&A. Speaking of the Q&A, if you put your cursor or your mouse or your finger, depending on what kind of device you're using, at the bottom of the screen, you should see a little box with a question mark in it that says Q&A. As soon as you have questions, go ahead and drop them in there. I will be kind of answering questions as Tim goes through. And then if it's a question I think everybody's going to be interested in, Tim and I will revisit that question when he's done with his presentation. So, Tim, my short intro lasted 20 minutes. So there you go. I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us more about Atlas.
Thank you, sir. Hey, by the way, John, I love your beard. Anyways, so welcome, folks. John just made a lot of sense when he was talking about the 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 difference between a river cruise and an ocean yacht. And I just want to get real quick. My wife and I actually did the Greek Isle cruise last year, we were down at the dining room, and of course she forgot her shawl or whatever it was, a sweater. And so I literally went up to the cabin, came back. I like within a minute, I think they had already, and I'll get into this about our ship. They're absolutely gorgeous. I've been in the business for 32 years, and I've known John for a long, long, long time. And I got to be honest with you, I've always been involved in the ocean side, the ocean ships, the big ships. There's a place for those. Again, if they build them, if you build it, they'll come. But I'm so intrigued, and I had done so much homework on Atlas Ocean Voyages when the concept came out. But I love the vision, and I love what we have done just in a short span of 3 years. We've done some amazing things. But I just kind of want to walk you through what life on board an Atlas ship is like, and we'll go from there. So we are an intimate yachting expedition company. When people think about expedition, a lot of things they focus on polar and Antarctica, the Arctic, things like that. But we take it to the next level, and I'll talk about that briefly. So I just want to talk a little bit about us. The ship that you're sailing on, the yacht, is the World Navigator. I'll talk a little bit about our Epicurean expedition, which is what you will be on with this particular sailing, and of course our sailing for 25. So where do we sail overall? To John's point, if hopefully you can join us on the 25 sailing, 26 and beyond. But again, individually, if you want to go to South America, or we're doing a little bit of Caribbean or the Med, which you're going to be on, or Northern Europe, you can always call John's team, and I'm sure they can set you up with an Atlas cruise for sure. But this basically is where we go. I get a lot of questions from our guests that we'll be sailing to Alaska. That's just not going to happen. That's not in our future plans. Quite honestly, there's maybe one time where we may touch on North America, but we focus most of our energies on this. Now, once we get new ships, you never know what'll happen. But currently, we have 3 ships in our fleet. So we are a year-round expedition company. And when I said we talked about we're an expedition company, that's because we do have all 3 of our ships are in Antarctica for what, 5.5 months. So those are our polar expeditions. And then we have our cultural expeditions, which are more Caribbean based, South America, things of that nature. But the particular expedition that you all are going on with the Greek Isle cruise is an Epicurean expedition. And I got to tell you, there's a few things that are a little bit added, I guess, an added experience that you wouldn't get if you're in the polar because of our outdoor access. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But our ships are, again, John mentioned it. We basically take 192 guests in total. They're 10,000 gross registered tons, which may not mean much to you. But the thing I love about the fact that we are an ocean ship, a yacht experience, we're very, very destination focused. Our little yachts allow us to traverse through several different areas of the world, quite honestly, that a lot of the bigger ships cannot go to. Perfect example is the cruise that I went on last year with my wife. We did Venice to Athens. And for those of you that are familiar with all the new regulations, rules and regulations in Venice, we docked our yacht right there. I was on the Traveler. We docked it right there within a 15-minute walk. I was right in the heart of Venice, so St. Mark's Square. So that there's a lot to be said about that when you think about this, and especially with the itinerary that you're on. So these are intimate yachts, and I always want to put a shout out for our service. The service on board our vessels is second to none. I know a lot of people say that, but I've experienced this for 32 years, and I got to tell you. It's basically a 1-to-1 guest to staff ratio. When you think about that, that's awesome. They will get to know you after the first day. And I'm not just saying that. It's incredible. I totally love our staff on board. So another great thing about Atlas Ocean Voyages, we're pretty much all inclusive. There are some shore excursions that we do not include, but we do free cultural immersions, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Our dining venues, complimentary, ever-changing menus, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I don't have to go through the whole list, but unlimited beverages, including, excuse me, fine wines, spirits, and things of that nature. Our gratuities are included, which is awesome. And again, we have afternoon high tea on board our vessels in the Dome Lounge, which is a lot of fun, very, very cool. And again, we do have 24-hour room service. So you can read through the list, but we're pretty much all inclusive when you think about it. So an Epicurean expedition, which is what this sailing is again, we offer free culinary experiences ashore. And I love the fact that John talked earlier. I personally don't know these chefs that he talked about. I've done a little bit of research, and I know our team in Fort Lauderdale have for sure. They sound pretty impressive. When you go on an Epicurean expedition, I happen to have on my cruise that we were on, we had a chef out of Hawaii. He was amazing. But the thing about our Epicurean expeditions is we do, as John said, we do a lot of demonstrations, cooking demonstrations, and we actually get the guests involved. It's really very cool the way we do that. So we do. And the one thing I mentioned earlier about one advantage that you have when you're going on a warm weather cruise with us, you will be able to experience the Jasper Grill, which is on deck 7 and it's outside, and that's complimentary. So there's no upcharge. And I'll talk a little bit about Jasper Grill in a second. I just want to show you the deck plan. The only reason John brought it up, we only really have 3 decks of cabins themselves. A line majority of they're on deck 5 and deck 6. We do have a few what we call Atlas Ocean Voyage rooms. They have a picture window more for the single traveler, but most of our cruises, I mean our cabins are on deck 5, deck 6. 90% of our vessels, of which we have 3 I mentioned, 90% we do offer balconies, verandas, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So basically, the thing that's wonderful about us is it's truly a sanctuary at sea. When you think about if you're in one of those Atlas Ocean Voyage single staterooms, or if you're in one of our suites, every single guest get the same amenities that you would get No, again, if you're in a suite or if you're in an outside stateroom or whatever, the only thing that is different is in a suite you get butler service. But other than that, free in-room service. We have the Nespresso coffee makers. The Terry Cross, and I got to tell you that the bathrooms. And I'm a freak about bathrooms, but the bathrooms on board our vessels are absolutely beautiful. And the best thing about them, they're spacious. The showers are huge. We got the rain shower going. We have the side jets, but really, really beautiful. And one thing I failed to mention, you know, our oldest ship basically was built 3.5 years ago. So she still looks like she just came out of the shipyard. So that's pretty cool. So we do have suite accommodations, I believe, for this sailing. I'm not sure, John, if we have any left on this one, but we do have 10 suites. They're typically first to go. Good size staterooms for a ship of this size, beautifully appointed. Now, a line share of about 70, almost 80, 90% of our vessel has category B1, B2, or A1, A2. And there's the same square footage, 270 square foot, again, beautifully appointed, uh, you know, basically oversized beds, wonderful beds, and all the amenities that you would get. But when you look at the veranda stateroom B1 or B2, you do have a balcony, and it's again 270 square feet. Now, if you don't want it to go without a balcony, but what we call a Juliet balcony, same square footage, but you do not have a balcony. As you see, the window, you just push a button, it goes halfway down. So that would serve basically, so you get a little bit more living space in our Horizon A1, A2 cabins. But again, as I said, very, very well appointed. I've been to Antarctica, I've been to the Greek Isles, and there's more than enough space in our cabins. And again, the beauty of them too. This is the one stateroom I was talking about a little bit about, our Adventure Ocean one that, again, I think we have 8 of these on board our vessels. So as John mentioned, we really have 2 lounges, main lounges. We do have a bar outside, again, warm weather, awesome. Uh, the Atlas Lounge is beautiful. This is the first point of contact that you'll have with our guests. It's on deck 4. It's right behind the reception area. You'll be directed to the Atlas Lounge. You'll be met by one of our staff members. They'll go through any questions that you have, point out all the details about what we offer on board the vessel, and then they'll escort you back up to your stateroom to start your journey. The observation lounge, I love it. Again, this is our second lounge that we have. This is where a lot of the, I want to say action, if you will, but typically, again, it goes a little bit later in the evening. But beautiful floor to ceiling, 280-degree view of the seascape, absolutely gorgeous. And you can actually walk outside and you're right at the bow of the ship. But a great lounge. And this is where, again, we'll do our high tea and entertainment in the evening. We don't have the big Broadway shows. We just don't. That's not our deal. But if we're in Port Long, we maybe we'll have somebody come on board from the shore. But again, it's just more laid back, singers, piano players, what have you. But a beautiful lounge and just a great way to meet fellow MOA members. John mentioned the auditorium. The auditorium is used quite frequently, especially in Antarctica, because of our expedition team going through the daily activities. But we also do talk about possibly doing some maybe cooking demonstrations in the warm weather. Auditorium is awesome. It's beautiful, and it seats all of our guests at one time if needed. Our main dining room on World Navigator is called Porto. It actually is a wraparound um, uh, restaurant, beautiful views throughout on the starboard side, on the port side. We are open seating dining for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But for breakfast and lunch, we do have a buffet, but you can also order off the menu for breakfast, so you could get anything you want for breakfast. But again, beautiful, beautiful room, and then in the evening it is off the menu, and again, open seating dining. If you have maybe a group of, maybe there's 4 or 6 of you traveling together and you want a table, talk to the maitre d'. It's very, very easy to get what you need on board the Navigator. So an extension to the Navigator, to the restaurant Porto, is our outdoor restaurant. And again, this is one of the advantages of sailing in warm weather destinations when you cruise on Atlas Ocean Voyages, because again, obviously we don't use this in Antarctica, but it's a great extension to the restaurant. You can have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's aft of the ship. It's beautiful views, great food, and again, that obviously is complimentary. Paula's Pantry, I love Paula's Pantry. I think it's a great addition that when we were building these vessels, it's basically a to-go, if you will. So if you happen to be on a shore excursion, or if you happen to not get up early enough to have breakfast, Paula's Pantry is open from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. And it's a great place to get a coffee, specialty coffee, fresh baked goods. So again, if you miss breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or you just want a snack in the middle of the day, just walk over to Paula's Pantry. It's a great location. It's right on deck 4, right behind the reception area. Very, very popular place. My favorite, I'm an early riser. I love to get up early. I go to Paula's Pantry and, usually 6:15, they're usually there. I grab my coffee. I go back on the aft part of the ship and just sit and have my coffee. It's just very, very relaxing, but just a great and you could even take something to go if you're in a rush and you want to get on land for your excursion. So great place. The 7F grill is what I talked about. This is on deck 7. It's aft, of course, that's why we call it 7 aft. Makes sense. This seats 18 guests at a time. Reservations are required for this, but the beauty of having 7 aft grill is basically our steak and seafood restaurant. Again, no upcharge during the day. Also, if you happen to be by the pool and you just want to get something, a burger, pizzas, whatever, we do offer a buffet on 7F Grill, and along with there is a bar area right next to that. So it's a great place to go, especially when it's a beautiful day outside. We do have a spa on board. L'Occitane is our spa provider. Very high end. It's beautiful. Great, just great amenities that we have. I would highly recommend that if you're interested, you should actually book that as soon as you get on board. But and L'Occitane, by the way, is our bath amenities inside every single stateroom that we have. Health and wellness is very important, and again, especially in warm weather, we have our gyms. We have on deck 8, we have a running track. It's exactly 12 laps for a mile, and but it's just absolutely beautiful. And this is where we do some of our yoga classes or what have you. The pool and hot tubs, again, we do have pools. We have hot tubs, which are utilized all the time. But again, a great area. We have about 40, 45. You won't find people getting up at 7:30 in the morning, going to Paula's Pantry, grabbing stuff, and then saving seats or saving. It just doesn't happen with our guests. So there's always a time where you could grab a chair, grab a lounge chair, or whatever. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful area. So I do want to talk a little bit about why we're here today, and it's really this is a fantastic itinerary that John picked out. It's a great itinerary. It's a round trip Athens to Athens. Again, absolutely beautiful, beautiful ship. And by the way, I failed to mention when I was talking about our vessels, I do have 3 ships. And the best thing about my vessels and my fleet is the fact that every single ship is identical. So once you sail on the Navigator, and then next year, maybe you want to sail on the Voyager or the Traveler, you will know that ship inside and out, inside and out. So that's the beauty of it. The only thing that changes on board is the upholstery, things of that, the decor, the way it's decorated. But other than that, the ships are beautiful. Um, so I just kind of want to walk through a couple of the ports of call. And the one thing I want to point out with this slide here is if you notice the time that we spend in port and the time that we actually, how long we're in port, you know, till 11 p.m., midnight, 10 p.m., 8:30 p.m., 10 p.m. So this allows you to have a lot of time on board. You can have dinner with us, or you can go on land, but you have a lot of time to spend in the destination you're in. So, and again, for this destination, it's absolutely fabulous. They do have tremendous restaurants on this itinerary for sure. So again, obviously, your cruise will start in Athens. Um, I'm not sure if you've been to Athens before, but it's beautiful. I love Athens. It's a great starting point, in my opinion. But obviously, some of the highlights are, the temples, the monuments, the museums. They just have the Acropolis is unbelievable. Right below, when you see the Acropolis, right below, there's like a little village in town, right underneath the Acropolis. Not literally underneath, but great restaurants during the day and just a great area. And then, of course, the city exploration. It's a big city, but it's so unique and just so absolutely beautiful. And then we go to Mykonos. I have to tell you that I've been to Greece several times. I'd have to say Santorini is my favorite up until my wife and I went last year. Fell in love with Mykonos. So much so that at the end of our cruise, we ended up doing a 2-day extension, got a hotel in Mykonos. Beautiful. So it's just the taste of Mykonos, the beauty of it, it's just really, really beautiful. The olive oil, caviar experiences they have. Of course, Uzo, you got to go with that, but just really a great, great destination. And it's just absolutely beautiful. Blew me away. And if you notice the windmills on the hill, not quite even sure why those are there, but anyways, really very cool. And then Kusadasi, again, the temples, the monuments, Ephesus, of course, Library of Celestis. I always have a problem with that. But a great destination. And again, I think we're there pretty much all day. So you have a great opportunity to visit Kusadasi. Patmos, just a really cool, small little island. A lot of art and agricultural architecture. I'm sorry. St. John's Patmos, which is just an amazing place, and just the panoramic views that you have when you're in Patmos, and it is just a beautiful destination. And again, we spend a lot of time there during the course of the cruise. Santorini, as I mentioned early on, I've spent a lot of time in Santorini. Just a great destination, so much to do, and we're there for quite a bit of time. You'll hopefully have a shore excursion they'll be doing, or maybe an immersion that will include when we talked about that earlier. The Greek cooking experiences. There's a lot of private sailing by the catamaran. Of course, you have to do the touristy stuff, and you have to either take the donkey down the hill or the donkeys up the hill. It's an experience, let me just tell you that. But it's a great destination, and just the sheer beauty. So much known for the blue roofs and the white. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I recommend Santorini for the day. And Nafplion, I have not been here, but I know several of my colleagues have, and they said it's absolutely the town is beautiful. It's a great place to just basically, if you can just quite honestly, if you don't go on an excursion, get a local and they'll take you around the island. But it's really quite nice, especially the countryside is one thing that I heard a lot about. And Spetses is really more of it's just a very, very relaxing day. You've got the beaches, museums, and sightseeing. It's just a very, very relaxing day. And again, quite beautiful too. I remember there's a shot here that's by the pier. There's several outdoor restaurants where you can go have coffee, a glass of wine, whatever. But with just stunning, stunning views. And the most beautiful thing I think when I'm on land and I'm looking out to the water, the one thing that I see that I'm always so proud of and is our vessel. It's because it's so close. If it's not docked, it could be docked too, but it's just a beautiful looking vessel. So, but this is again a great destination. And then of course you'll end in Athens. Again, great destination. And John brought up the back-to-back opportunity that you have with what they've selected with the Barcelona to Athens segment. You know, the best thing about that is if you decide to do that, and I know we have several MOA members that are already booked doing that, basically two cruises, is the nice thing about it is that hopefully if you have your cabin for the Barcelona to Athens, then you'll basically keep the same cabin. So it's really quite nice. Um, again, just a little bit more about the culture and the cuisine itself. We do Epicurean expeditions. I mentioned Jasper Grill, the cooking demonstrations, but we do have one free cultural immersion, again, where we'll go on shore, maybe visit the markets and things of that nature. We do have a gastronomic guest coming on board, and you have an advantage of having two other chefs coming on board, which is very, very cool. And we do also have a visiting vintner that comes on board, local winemaker and things of that nature. So if you're really into food and wine, that's a great advantage you have too. And the Yachtsman Cook-Off, I believe we'll probably do the Yachtsman Cook-Off with I'm not sure on this, but with the two that John was talking about. And again, this is where it's more of an Iron Man. You see these Iron Man shows. It's kind of like that. It's just very participatory, I guess if that's a word, but fantastic experience. And then, as I mentioned before, we do the free cultural immersions. John had talked about the Military Edge program. Obviously, we have to definitely, we've been doing this since we started the company. And it's up to 20% off. I do get a lot of questions on this, and I know John does too. John is a incredible negotiator, and we've already negotiated that into the price of these cruises. But up to 20% off of select sailings. Could be 5%, could be 7%, could be 10, 15, or 20. But take advantage of that also if you're going on your own, basically. Um, so I'm going to turn it back over to John, but let me just recap real quick. It's a little rushed when I do these things once in a while, but there's the thing I love about my vessels again is the size. I talked about it, but we have a lot of outdoor space, and especially when you're in the warm weather. The one thing I failed to mention was water's edge. On deck five, if you go all the way forward, it looks like you're going into crew quarters. You open up the door and then you go out at the bow of the ship. It's on deck five, and it's just a stunning views. When we're at sea, it's amazing. You're basically 30 feet off the water. It's got benches, so you could have your coffee there, have a glass of wine, whatever you want. So it's just really beautiful. Again, the whole flow of the vessel is awesome, and the camaraderie on board is amazing. So I would like to welcome you on board. It's just a fantastic experience. And at this point, I think I'll turn it back over to John.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Tim. Somebody actually mentioned what a great job we're doing.
Oh,
So
wow, good. Thank you.
yeah, I guess we're both getting better at this, so to speak.
Yeah, after all these,
Yeah, one of the things, just to reiterate what Tim said, I think it's important, to talk. I mean, there's two things that we talk about in this industry. There's the hardware and the software. The hardware is the ship. The software is the people, and the people on Atlas are amazing. I think that is true a lot of times on the smaller ships, just because you interact with the same people over and over again. And so, I mean, look, I've been on the new Royal Caribbean ships, which have like 5,000 guests on them. And even if you're at the pool having a cocktail, I mean, you might see a waiter one day and not see him again until 3 or 4 days later. So you really get to know the people, and they're very friendly, and everything else. I mean,
John, can I just
yeah,
interrupt you on that real quick? I have a story to share. So
sure.
when I went to Antarctica, it was a year ago. It was in November a year ago, and I took my brother-in-law, and so we went there. And before dinner, he likes to have a Manhattan. I usually have a glass of wine or maybe a Manhattan, whatever. So, long story. Fast forward 9 months later, my brother-in-law and his wife, my sister-in-law, they went on the same ship, and they did the Arctic. And when John actually literally was blown away by this. He actually called me. When he went to the Dome Lounge, he went up the first night, he went up to the bartender, and the bartender said to him, true story, "Welcome back, Mr. John. What kind of Manhattan would you like tonight?" That's amazing when you think about it. 9 months later,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing to me. That's just it's a huge shout out to our staff. They're incredible.
A couple of things that I just want to touch in, and then we'll get to the Q&A. First off, when Tim talks about deck 5 going to the front of the ship, and you're actually at the bow, almost Titanic like, where you're standing at the very front of the ship. That's where we plan on taking the group photo for this cruise. It's it'll be like a frame it and post it on your wall kind of picture. It's just so picturesque with the whole group standing there at the front of the ship. The other thing is, I did want to mention real quick, just to make sure everybody understands, when you look at the deck plan, it's going to say Juliet balcony and private balcony. And I want to make sure everybody understands Juliet balcony is basically the same thing. River cruise ships, a lot of times, call them French balconies. And the private balcony, I think more people are used to. That's where you have a door, it opens, you can actually step out and stand on your balcony. The Juliet or French balconies are when the wall, the outer wall of your room, of your stateroom or your suite, is all glass, and then the top half lowers. And so literally you could put your arms out and look over it. I know we shared that picture on a previous webinar we did, but in fact, your whole stateroom becomes your balcony, for lack of a better word. So you can still lean out and look over and everything. We only have 2 of those left, 1A1 and 1A2. The advantage of those is the fact that the staterooms are larger. If you imagine a cruise ship and it's only so wide, at the front of the ship, they have the step out balconies. So let's say that's what is that going to be, Tim? Like 6 feet-ish, 5, 6 feet?
Yeah, six,
Not huge, but enough that you can put a chair out there and whatever. If you're in a room that has the Juliet balcony, your cabin is that much bigger because the ship is the same width in the back as it is in the front. And so if you get one of the Juliet balconies, your stateroom is actually larger. So Kathy Kuzma, who when she did the webinar a year ago mentioned she prefers them. I will tell you that I personally prefer them because yeah, it's nice to be able to walk out on your balcony and those types of things, but with that French balcony or Juliet balcony, you get the same experience. But anyway, I just wanted to mention it because once you decide you want to go, if you go to the website, there's that page which is booked now. If you just go there and fill out that form and send it in, we'll get right back in touch with you to finalize the booking, get your credit card for the deposit, all that other information. But we are very limited. I know we have 1A1, 1A2. I think we have 5 or 6 of the B2s, if I'm remembering correctly. It's one of the Bs. The Bs actually have the private balconies. And then we have AOs. We have 2 of those. The AOs would be kind of the ocean view types of rooms where you don't have a balcony of any type, you just have a picture window. So when you decide to go, if depending on what type of accommodations you want, get back with us as quickly as possible. As I mentioned, 1A1, 1A2, 5 B2s, and 2 AOs is I think what we had, at least as of yesterday when the website was updated. So just go online, fill out that book now form, let us know you want to go, and we'll get you booked on that. Okay, so now to the questions. Tim, somebody asked about Antarctica. I actually had to call Mike to get the answer, but their question was about the flight to Ushuaia, whether or not that was included. So Mike told me yes, it was, but can you kind of talk real quick about how that works with Antarctica, how they
Yeah,
fly into
absolutely.
Buenos Aires and
Antarctica.
how that works?
Yeah, it's an incredible destination. Basically, what you need to do is, and by the way, it's great timing actually. We're just trying to top off February and March. We have some great specials that we'll forward over to John, but there's 8 cities, I believe, where we're doing free air from from like Chicago O'Hare, New York, whatever. I've got the list where we're actually doing free air to Buenos Aires. Um, and then you board the charter. But if you aren't able to go in March or April, Um, Basically, the way it works is you just get to Buenos Aires. Once you get to Buenos Aires, we have an overnight accommodations, a hotel that we provide for you for the first night that you get there. And then what we do is we pick you up early in the morning, and we take you back to Buenos Aires Airport, and we board a charter flight that we have that flies to Ushuaia. It's about a 3.5 hour flight. That is included. Once we arrive into Ushuaia, what we do then is we take all your luggage, we load everybody up on a motor coach, and then we do a 2.5 hour tour. It's awesome, of Terra Fuego. And then once we get back to the pier, it's about time that we can then board the ship because we're doing a turnaround, so you can't really board the ship until about 2 o'clock, 2:30. So it's great timing. We arrive into Ushuaia about 11:15 in the morning. We clear customs, go on the motor coach, do that tour, and then you start your journey. And then on the way back, same thing. You board the charter. If you're going back to Buenos Aires, you board the charter, and then once you get to Buenos Aires, you're on your own. Um, Incredible destination, incredible destination. I was absolutely blown away by it, and we make it very, very easy for our guests to get from point A to point B, especially with the complimentary charter that we have. But if you're into going in the next couple months, I would highly recommend calling John and his team because we have a couple programs right now that where we're offering, like, as I mentioned, free air out of major gateways
Yeah.
once you get on board, and then you get the free charter also. So it's a significant savings. So, but
Yeah, because
that's kind of the
airfare
way
to
it works.
Buenos Aires is not inexpensive. Having
No, no, it's not. No.
um, just I put this in one of the answers. I don't know if everybody's reading everything I typed in the answers, but Mike Tyrell in on the actually it was on the same sailing as you, right, Tim?
Correct. Yep.
So that would have been 2023. You said last year. We're now in
Yeah,
2025, but
23.
however you want to do that. But yeah, so Mike actually would have the information on those free air dates. And Mike was not only sailed on Atlas, but he went to Antarctica. So he's probably your best bet to talk to if you're looking at Atlas Antarctica. He's actually been on that. Okay, somebody asked about, I mentioned the back-to-back option, Barcelona to Athens, and I guess my answer was confusing. So I'm going to try answering this quickly, but kind of explain it. So when we originally booked the signature group, which is the 7-night round trip Athens, August 9th through the 16th, we knew people were interested in doing back-to-backs because we've been doing the signature group for years now. And so we held group space on the next sailing, which is Athens to Dubrovnik. It's a 9-night sailing. And I think it's 20 couples, but it may be 19. But we have a nice sized group of people that when the signature group ends are going to stay on the ship for another 9 days and sail from Athens to Dubrovnik. That sailing is sold out. So we can no longer offer a back-to-back option, which would be Athens to Athens and Athens to Dubrovnik. So we reached out to Atlas and we've blocked group space or in the process of blocking group space. And Tim mentioned about the negotiation. I'll be honest, they came back to us with the price. I thought they could do better. So we went back to the group department and are pressing them to give us an even better deal on that. So the new back-to-back is going to be a 12-night Barcelona to Athens sailing that departs on 7/28 from Barcelona, and then you stay on the ship for the signature group. So sorry if that's confusing, but what happened was we had people that were wanting to do the back-to-back, and since Athens to Dubrovnik is sold out, we reached out to them for that sailing, the sailing prior to ours. That is actually the Atlas President's Cruise. So Atlas's president, James Rodriguez, will be on that sailing. So it's just another back-to-back option. I guess in theory, if somebody wanted, well, you could, if you'd already booked the Athens to Dubrovnik and you wanted to add the Barcelona to Athens and make that what's 12 plus a 28-day cruise, you could. But the reason that we are just now putting that together is because that cruise to Dubrovnik has sold out. So, Tim, someone asked about what time do you embark and disembark the yacht? I assume they're talking about the Greek Isles cruise. I assume that it's fairly standard, right?
Yeah, it's we typically embark. I mean, if it's on the departure date and the return date, we typically get on board in Ushuaia. I'm sorry, anywhere. Sorry. Usually it's
Athens.
2:30 or 3 o'clock, and sorry, I got confused.
Yep.
And then it just depends. I mean, typically we'll leave maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and when we return, it's usually early morning. We get in around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, and so
Pretty
the
standard.
ship will dock, and then typically, they're going to ask everybody out of their staterooms after breakfast, and then disembarkation will begin. Now, it's not like the huge ships where they have thousands of people getting on and off. So disembarkation and embarkation goes much smoother, just because there's fewer people. But you will still be having 180 people boarding together and disembarking together, and like all cruises, they're going to have everybody get off the ship in the morning after the ship docks and after it clears customs, so they can start cleaning, sanitizing everything, the entire ship, to get ready for the next group. Obviously, if you're on a back-to-back, there'll be excursions that are available that day in Athens, and you don't have to disembark. So there will be some people that are staying on board. Okay. Oh, somebody said thanks.
Oh,
Excellent. Um, okay, we're right at 3. So I said, when we got done with the Q&A, I was going to give a couple of teasers for what we're putting together for the 2026 cruise. And so we have a couple of different options on both the front end and on the back end. So on the front end, we are offering a back-to-back cruise option. So you'd stay on this ship. Greek Isles is on World Navigator. The 2026 cruise is on the World Voyager. They're sister ships. So basically, if you're on one, you get on the other one. The layout is the same. The way I always kind of describe it is different color carpet. So you'll get on board. The ship is the same. Everything's in the same place. So you already know your way around. But anyway, so we are offering a back-to-back. This is actually already on the website, which is going to be Reykjavik to Dublin. And then the cruises from Dublin down to Porto, Portugal. A lot of people have talked about Ireland and Scotland. So as an alternative to the back-to-back cruise, we are going to have a 7-night tour option, which will be Ireland and Scotland. And actually, it'll be the reverse order. So you end in Dublin. So it'll be a 7-night Scotland and Dublin tour for the people that really want to see that part of Europe. And don't really want to do the 19-night cruise. And then for post, we are going to offer a Douro River cruise on Uniworld. So you'll get off the Atlas cruise ship, and then you can jump on the next day. So you'll do one night overnight in Porto, and then the next morning we're going to have that as an option as well. We're going to put all that together. As I mentioned, Tim and I are going to be back on March 13th. And that webinar is going to be solely focused on the 2026 departure. We're assuming by March this will be sold out. As I mentioned, we have very few cabins remaining. So for the next 30 days or whatever, we're going to make sure we fill the last remaining cabins. And then come March, we're going to turn all of our focus to 2026. So hopefully we see everybody back in 2026. That being said, appreciate everybody for joining us once again. We are going to send you a link for this webinar that we're going to actually download it and then upload it to YouTube. So we'll send you a link to the YouTube. Friends and family are invited. So feel free to share this webinar with any friends and family you have that might be interested in going. And we'll include all the information on excursions pre and post and all that other information next week as soon as it's finalized. So appreciate everybody for coming today and joining us. I hope to see everybody in Athens on August 9th. I'll be on board when you board. Mike Tyrell will be there as well. Both of us are getting on early the morning of the 9th before embarkation begins. actually, we're going to sit down and meet with James Rodriguez, Atlas's president. So taking advantage of the opportunity that he's on the sailing prior to ours, get together and see how we can't improve things in the future. There's always room for improvement. So we're always trying to improve. So that being said, thanks everybody. Tim, on behalf of everyone at MOA Vacations and all the MOA members, we want to thank you for your time. We spend a lot of time putting these together, and I know you're very busy. You work with a lot of travel agencies, but you always seem to have time for MOA. So we appreciate that. I'm going to turn it over to
So
you.
I do want to end. I do want to end with. I don't know if this will work, but if you can read that, this is so true. Travel changes people's lives. Just remember that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon, and we appreciate you joining us today. Bye.
Great day. Thank you.